Timpool had this person slash thing slash they or whatever they go by. Drag Queen Maebe A girl, I think is how you pronounce their name. It's apparently a politician. I had never heard of this person prior to their appearance on Timcast, but Timpool asked a tough question to these types of people. What is a woman? And the drag queen person said, the idea of a man and a woman is actually so expansive and also a lot of other things. And they kind of got into a little bit of an argument here. Let's check out this question from Timpool. And like I said, Timpool has been doing a great job recently. Look, I don't want to become a timpool slash timcast fan channel, but I mean, it's just the most interesting news of the day. It just happens to be the most interesting news of the day. Let's get into this clip of Timpool asking drag queen Maebe A girl, what is a woman?
I have the question for you that I wonder if you've been expecting. You ready? I'm not expecting it, but let's see. What is a woman? I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that because I don't think that there's a singular answer.
Literally every single person who has gone through biology class in high school is qualified to answer that question. It's not that difficult. It's just these people don't want to answer because they don't want to lose their fan base. They don't want to lose their followers. They don't want to be expelled from the cult. And also they've been brainwashed as well by the cult because they are not running the cult. They are part of it. And the people inside of cults are normally not thinking straight. They are also brainwashed. So it's very easy to answer the question of what is a woman. It's just these people don't want to. So they try and their very best to make it out to seem like this super complicated question with so many different variables and so many different correct answers, when in reality it's not. There's one answer for what is a woman, there's one answer for what is a man, but these people want to dodge the question the best as possible. And you can see that here in this clip. And this isn't the only time that it dodges the question. It also goes on to dodge the question a few more times as well.
Answer. And I think it goes back into this idea of what I was talking about earlier is so many people view the world through this binary lens of you're either this or that. You're a man or a woman. But the idea of a man and the idea of a woman is actually so expansive, and there's so much opportunity and nuance in between. And I think it's up to the individual to decide. And I think that's part of the personal freedom and liberty that I agree with in American ideals, is that let us be free to be self-determinating. And if I tell you that I am somebody, I'm not going to tell you just to screw you over or to fool you or to try to get something off of you. If I'm telling you this is who I am, just acknowledge me for that. And if there ends up being, a consequence resultingly, then deal with it. But the fact that
you know what? I wouldn't really have that big of a problem with that. Like, if you want to indulge in your delusions, if you want to indulge in your mental illness, that's fine. You should be able to go off and do that. I don't really have an issue with that. But obviously the issue and the talking point that has been hammered into everyone's heads recently is to leave the children alone. Whenever you start trying to spread these ideas to children, whenever you try to normalize these things, not only in adulthood, which I don't agree with. Like, I don't agree with adults with this being normalized to adults because it's just not normal. It's obviously mental illness. I mean, look at this person. Like, I don't mean to be mean, but just look at the person. You can tell that they're mentally ill. But it's one thing to normalize it in adulthood. It's a whole other thing to normalize this in schools, have children praying to pride flags and trans flags and stuff like that. That's a whole nother issue. So yeah, I agree. You should be able to indulge in your delusions, but do it way over there, out of sight, out of mind, and away from the children is all I ask.
We have to have this definition of what a woman is. I think it's counterproductive, and I think it's in and of itself meant to be transphobic.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up. What is a female?
Well, also, I think a big thing that we haven't talked about actually at all in this conversation is the idea of intersex people. And so again,
And another dodge of the question because I'm just going to say it looks like a he to me. He's trying to dodge the question by bringing up this very small percentage of people, intersex people. That's what they always try to do. It's like you ask them a very simple question, what is a female? And they bring up this very small, exception to the rule, very, very, very small minority in order to divert away from answering the actual question. Because like I said, they can't lose that good favor of the cult that they're a part of. And also, he's just brainwashed.
Talking about this idea of the binary, people view the world, again, black and white, this or that, male or female. It also denigrates the experience of everybody in between. There are so many people who are born intersex who are healthy people, and they are
that would naturally imply there is a male and a female then. If there is inter, right?
Well, but that's the thing is, there are, but also.
So what is female?
But to state that there is just male and female is incorrect.
Well, I'm not
there's so much in between.
Right. I won't say
people
that.
Who are born intersex.
So can you define what female is?
Female would, in my opinion, be the one end of this binary that society has created. And whether or not I agree or disagree with it, it's sort of the circumstances of the society that we live in.
So sex and gender, the argument is they're different. Sex is a clearly definable scientifically identifiable thing. But you say it's society created it.
Well, I think that gender and sex are different. Absolutely.
So female relating to the sexes, male and female.
Yeah, I think that it's relating to that. But again, the idea that it's just male and female, it completely takes away the autonomy of intersex people, there is a huge prevalence of intersex people who were born intersex. And these are the people,
in order for there to be intersex, there has to be a male and a female, right? So I'm not asking for...
Based off of this idea of a binary.
I don't disagree with the existence of...
He's not trying to say that there is no in-between, which in my opinion, there isn't. But Tim's not even trying to assert that there is no in-between between a male and a female. He's just asking if there is an in-between, then what define the ends? Define what they're in between of. Like define the female part and define the male part is all he's asking. And this person can't even do that. Because even that, you can't, there's no right answer to these people, to the people that these people pander to their fans, their supporters, and their cult. There is no right answer to these questions, so you must just avoid them at all costs.
Of intersex people.
But I think that somebody,
if we're gonna try and get to the core of what the social argument is, and the argument typically on the LGBT left side is that woman can be your experience, well then female has to be discernibly something we can identify.
Well, I think you can change your sex and your gender. The appropriate term.
But you can't change your sex. You can change your gender.
I disagree with that.
How do you alter your DNA throughout your whole body?
What do you think HRT is? What do you think HRT is? Hormone
HRT doesn't change the...
It changes your biology.
It changes your biology.
Okay, but also if we're talking about chromosomes, like in what other context are we describing people based off of their chromosomes? I think the argument for this is an argument intentionally created to be an argument against transgender people, as if we are some freaks of nature trying to fool people. And the fact of the matter is that
that's a bit over the top, right?
Well, no, but do you disagree that there are many people who would
No, I wouldn't agree. I think that there's many people, maybe some people, yeah, but I think most of us are just trying to reestablish ourselves in reality here. Like we're like, okay, there is no possible way that I am this crazy that these things are just supposed to be completely normal to me. Like at the very least, can we at least have a reality where we know what a male is and what a female is? At the very least, can we at least know what a man and a woman is? Like I said, you can go indulge in all your delusions, just do it out of sight, out of mind, and stop trying to tell me that men and women don't exist. Like that's all we're asking here. Can we at least establish somewhat of a basis of reality that we live in?
Describe us that way?
There are a lot of people who are very mean, I would say. But here's what I'm trying to get to, and this is what we need to understand. We did not create as a society women's sports because sometimes people wear dresses. We created women's sports because biological males versus biological females have differences in fast twitch versus slow twitch muscle, center of gravity, general collagen, and bone density.
Okay, but also when we talk about sports, when we talk about sports, it's not just about, it's very much condensed into this idea of, we're transgender people are erasing women, and, there are all these cis women who are not getting scholarships and not winning. The fact of the matter is transgender people have been performing in sports with cisgender people for a long time. It's only recently become...
Here they go. Diverting from the actual question, diverting from what timpool was actually talking about to bring up some very small minority. I mean, even today, let's be real, even today, the transgender people competing in women's sports is a very small percentage. It's a very dangerous small percentage. Like that definitely shouldn't be happening. Women are, getting their heads bashed in MMA fights and stuff like that. Shouldn't be happening, but it's a very small percentage. So to try to say that since the beginning of men and women's sports, there's been trans people competing in women's sports is just nonsense, because it's an even lower percentage than it is now, and it's still a very small percentage right now. So once again, just bringing up a very small minority of the population from back then and trying to divert from the actual statement, from the actual questions. But even still, this shouldn't be happening, because like I said, it's just very dangerous to all the women. One, I think biological man competing in women's sports is too many, in my opinion.
This cultural phenomenon where people are speaking out against it. And the thing is, transgender people are not always winning against cisgender people, and that in and of itself defies the argument that folks who are born male shouldn't be competing with
that's not the argument,
folks who are born female.
The argument, maybe mistakenly on the surface to a lot of people, is that biological males are winning all the time. The argument is that, I'll give you an example in skateboarding. The first ever 1080, three full rotations, was done, I think, by a 12-year-old boy. That was 10 years ago. It is only in the past week that a female landed the first 720 two rotations. These are prepubescent. This is a 12-year-old girl. Even before puberty, there is very visibly discernible distinctions between the sexes when it comes to sporting capabilities. So if you take someone who has all the advantages of prenatal testosterone, for instance, in the womb, quite literally with more testosterone, they're going to be competing with advantages over people who do not have that. And so the issue ultimately becomes, if the purpose of competition is a dedication to training, ability, a combination of natural talent, abilities, and hard work, what you're doing is you're saying that some people who have a biological advantage but maybe don't have the same level of capabilities in the male spectrum are now competing against women. They may or may not win, but that means these females are pushing 10 times harder to try and be at the same level they would have been.
Exactly. It's not about all men, all biological men are better than all biological women at every single sport. It's that the best men are way better, 10 times better than the best women in every single sport. So it's not like somebody who's never picked up a baseball bat can go and play in, like college women's softball and dominate. Like, no, that's not going to happen. But if you take, somebody who's a college baseball player and put them in women's college softball, he's going to dominate, and there's no question about it. So it's not like any man can go beat any woman in any sport. That's not what we're trying to say. That's definitely coming out of somebody's mouth who has never played a sport or doesn't really understand the trans women in women's sports argument at all.
Were it not for the male who's competing against them.
Well, I think what your argument is leaving out is, something that you emphasized heavily is this idea of competition. And something that I think you left out about this idea about sports and about being in athletics is one of the greatest things that comes to people, whether they be adults or children, engaging in sports and athletics, which is this idea that of team building. There are so many benefits of actually being on a team that apply when you have teams that are made up of cisgender and transgender people. And it applies in many different realms. It applies to the sport itself, developing a team, being a team member. It's not always just about winning. And I think that's part of what is so awful in our American culture is there's this emphasis on I must win. I have to be the best. I have to win. When I think we lose sight of what is so wonderful about sports. And a lot of sports are, it's team building and it's working.
But we're not tracking the stats of basketball teams because they have good teams. We don't have like how many high fives did LeBron get.
But that's the thing. It's like, what's the point of, but then you have to ask, well, what's the point of doing a sport? Are you doing a sport just to win and show you're better than somebody?
It's a competition between everybody to see who is ultimately the best.
Well, if I recall, I did sports growing up, and one of the things that I actually got out of that was team building. It was never about I must win everything, and I think that's a really awful way to approach life.
Yeah, that's a very feminine, new age society way of approaching it, man. All sports is about is winning. Who is the best? That's all sports is about.
Life is I must win everything. And it's a very capitalist approach. It's a very, unfortunately, American-centric approach of I must win. I must be better because there has to be somebody beneath me.
So, yeah, but that's what makes America great, man. That's why America is the world superpower, is because we have that mindset of we must be the best. Everybody in the country. It's not just the country itself. It's everybody within the country. That's why capitalism is king. And I don't understand why Drag Queen Maebe A girl, or maybe a girl, however you say the name, was trying to make it sound like capitalism and the American way of living is a negative thing. But that's what these people do, man. They're also brainwashed to do that. Not only are they brainwashed to not answer any questions about biology, they're also brainwashed to hate capitalism and hate everything that America stands for. Let me know what you're thinking about this clip from Timcast IRL or from Timcast about Timpool asking Drag Queen Maebe A girl, what is a woman? Let me know what you thought about this entire clip here in the comments.